Every journey begins with something known. In space, that familiarity is the solar system, a structured, illuminated region where everything feels connected. The Sunday anchors it all, holding planets in predictable paths, casting light that defines direction, warmth, and motion. Here, nothing feels truly lost. Even in the vastness of space, there is a sense of order. From Earth, this system feels complete. The planets move in quiet rhythm, each following a path shaped by gravity and time. There is distance, yes, but it is a distance we understand. We can map it, measure it, name every major object within it. It is not small, but it is contained. A cosmic neighborhood where everything has a place. As you begin to move outward, that sense of structure remains for a while. Mars fades behind you, then Jupiter, then Saturn with its fading glow of rings. The giants of the system slowly shrink into distant points, their influence weakening as space stretches further in every direction. The Sunday, once overwhelming, begins to lose its dominance. Its light softens, no longer filling the sky but shrinking into something more distant, more ordinary. And with that change, something subtle begins to shift. The further you travel, the less space feels like a system, and the more it feels like separation. The distances between objects grow wider. The gaps become longer, emptier, quieter. What once felt like a connected structure begins to unravel into isolated fragments, drifting in darkness. Neptune marks the last major boundary of this familiarity. Beyond it, the solar system no longer presents itself as a collection of worlds, but as a fading influence. The Sunday's presence weakens. Its gravity still extends outward, but its control becomes less immediate, less defining. This is where the journey truly begins, because leaving the solar system is not just about distance. It is about losing reference points. The things that once guided you, light, proximity, recognizable motion, start to disappear. There is no longer a clear center, no dominant force shaping everything in an obvious way. Instead, there is space in its rawest form, vast, quiet, and increasingly indifferent. And as the last familiar objects fade into the background, a realization settles in. You are no longer traveling through a system. You are leaving it behind. There is no sign marking the edge of the solar system. No wall, no sudden drop into darkness, no clear moment where everything changes. Instead, the boundary exists as something invisible, something you can pass through without ever seeing it. And yet, it is one of the most important thresholds in space. This boundary is known as the heliosphere. For as long as you remain inside it, you are still under the influence of the Sunday. Not just its gravity, but its presence. The Sunday is constantly releasing a stream of charged particles, flowing outward in all directions at immense speeds. This solar wind creates a vast bubble around the solar system, pushing back against the interstellar medium that surrounds it. Inside this bubble, space is shaped by the Sunday. Radiation behaves differently. Magnetic fields are organized in a way that reflects solar activity. Even the movement of particles carries the signature of our star. It is an environment that, while extreme, still belongs to something familiar. But as you travel farther, the solar wind begins to weaken. The pressure it exerts diminishes with distance, gradually losing strength against the forces beyond. Eventually, it reaches a point where it can no longer hold its shape. This is where the heliosphere ends, not with a sharp boundary, but with a gradual transition. The first sign of this change is resistance. Particles from interstellar space begin to push inward, colliding with the outgoing solar wind. The region becomes turbulent, unstable, filled with shifting currents and invisible interactions. It is not calm, it is not silent. It is a zone of conflict between two environments, each trying to dominate the same space. And then, without warning, the balance shifts. The influence of the Sunday fades. The structure that once defined your surroundings dissolves, replaced by something far less organized. The magnetic fields lose their alignment. The radiation changes. The particles moving around you are no longer shaped by the Sunday, but by the galaxy itself. This is interstellar space, a place where there is no central anchor, no guiding force that creates order. The environment becomes more unpredictable, more diffuse, more difficult to understand. It is not empty, but it feels emptier because it lacks the structure we are used to. Crossing this boundary is not dramatic in appearance, but it is profound in meaning. It marks the moment where you are no longer inside something. You are between things. And in that transition, the journey takes on a different character. It is no longer about moving through a system with defined limits. It becomes something far more open, far more uncertain. Because once you leave the heliosphere, there is no clear destination ahead. Long before we crossed this boundary in imagination, something small and fragile had already done it in reality. In 1977, humanity launched a machine with a simple purpose: to explore the outer planets. It was never meant to go beyond the solar system. It was never meant to travel forever. But it did. The Voyager spacecraft, moving silently through space, continued long after its original mission ended. It passed Jupiter, then Saturn, capturing images and data that reshaped our understanding of the solar system. And then, with its primary objectives complete, it kept going. No return path, no destination, just forward motion into the unknown. As the years passed, Voyager became something more than a probe. It became a messenger. Attached to its side is a golden record, a carefully assembled collection of sounds and images from Earth. Greetings in multiple languages, music, natural sounds, fragments of human existence preserved on a disc designed to last for millions of years. It carries no instructions, no explanation beyond its presence. Only a silent introduction, drifting endlessly through space. And now it has crossed the boundary. Voyager has left the heliosphere. It no longer travels within the Sunday's protective bubble. It has entered interstellar space, becoming the first human-made object to exist beyond the influence of our star. It moves through an environment we cannot fully experience, sending back faint signals across unimaginable distances. Each transmission takes hours to reach Earth, and every year, that delay grows longer. At its current speed, Voyager will not reach another star system for tens of thousands of years. By then, Earth will be unrecognizable. Civilizations may rise and fall. Languages may disappear. Everything that created Voyager may be gone. But it will continue, drifting through darkness, untouched, carrying a record of a world that may no longer exist. It will not stop. It will not turn back. It will simply move forward. One of the few traces of humanity extending beyond the limits of our own system. And that is what makes it unsettling. Because Voyager is not just exploring space, it is leaving us behind. It represents a version of humanity that continues without us, a fragment of our existence separated from everything that gave it meaning. A silent traveler carrying evidence that we were once here, moving through a universe that may never notice. And as it drifts farther away, its signal growing weaker, there will come a point when it can no longer speak to us at all. When the connection is gone, and Voyager becomes truly alone. For a long time, interstellar space was described as empty. A vast, silent void stretching between stars, where nothing exists and nothing happens. It is easy to imagine it that way. After leaving the structured environment of the solar system, everything feels distant, scattered, and disconnected. But that idea is misleading. Interstellar space is not empty. It only appears that way because what exists there is difficult to see. The space between stars is filled with a thin mixture of gas and dust, known as the interstellar medium. It is incredibly sparse compared to anything we experience on Earth, just a few atoms per cubic centimeter, but spread across unimaginable distances. It becomes something significant. Hydrogen drifts in cold clouds. Tiny particles of dust move slowly through the darkness, remnants of stars that lived and died long before our solar system formed. And these particles are not still. They are in constant motion, shaped by forces that stretch far beyond any single star. Magnetic fields weave through space, invisible but powerful, guiding the movement of charged particles. Radiation from distant stars passes through this medium, interacting with it in subtle ways, creating patterns that are difficult to detect but always present. Even in silence, there is activity. Cosmic rays, high-energy particles traveling near the speed of light, move through interstellar space, carrying energy across vast distances. They collide with atoms, transfer momentum, and continue on their paths, part of a continuous exchange that never truly stops. It is not chaotic in the way planetary storms are, but it is not still either. It is a different kind of motion. A slower, more diffuse system where change happens over immense stretches of time and space. Structures form gradually, shaped by gravity and pressure. Clouds of gas collapse to form new stars. Shockwaves from distant supernovae ripple through the medium, altering its composition and movement. This is the environment Voyager now travels through. Not a void, but a region filled with subtle forces and invisible interactions. It moves through particles that have existed for millions of years, through fields that connect regions of space across vast distances. Every moment, it is interacting with this medium, even if those interactions are too faint for us to easily perceive. And this changes how we understand the journey, because leaving the solar system does not mean entering nothingness. It means entering a larger system, one that operates on scales and rules that feel unfamiliar. There is no central anchor, no dominant force organizing everything into clear patterns. Instead, there is complexity without obvious structure, motion without immediate visibility, a universe that continues to evolve, even in the places that seem most empty. And once you begin to understand that, the silence of interstellar space feels different. Not like the absence of everything, but like something vast, quiet, and constantly in motion, just beyond the limits of what we can easily see. Beyond the boundary of the solar system, distance stops behaving the way we understand it. Inside, space is measured between planets, between orbits, between points that feel connected. But out here, those reference points disappear. The scale expands so dramatically that movement itself begins to feel meaningless. You can travel for years, for decades, and still remain surrounded by the same darkness. There is no horizon, no landmark, no clear sense of direction, only a vast, uninterrupted silence stretching in every direction at once. And yet, this is not the end of the journey, because beyond this silence lie other stars, distant systems, each with their own planets, their own structures, their own unknown histories. They are scattered across the galaxy, separated by distances so immense that even light takes years to travel between them. From where you are, they appear as faint points, indistinguishable from one another, offering no hint of what surrounds them. The nearest of these stars is still trillions of kilometers away, a distance so great that even our fastest spacecraft would take tens of thousands of years to reach it. And that realization changes everything. It transforms space from something vast into something nearly unreachable, a place where exploration becomes a question of time far beyond human scales. This is where the silence deepens, because communication begins to fail. Signals weaken as they travel, spreading out until they fade into the background noise of the universe. Messages that once took minutes now take hours, then days, then longer. Eventually they stop arriving altogether. The connection breaks, not because something is blocking it, but because the distance itself becomes too great. And in that moment, isolation becomes complete. Not just physical, but absolute. There is no longer a link to where you came from, no feedback, no response, no confirmation that anything you send will ever be received. You exist entirely within your own path, moving forward through a universe that does not acknowledge your presence. But even here, the journey continues. Because the universe does not end. It extends far beyond our galaxy, beyond clusters of galaxies, into scales that stretch past easy comprehension. Each layer reveals more structure, more complexity, more distance. The deeper you go, the less familiar everything becomes, until the very idea of location begins to lose its meaning. And that is the final realization. This journey was never just about leaving the solar system. It was about confronting scale, understanding that what we call vast is only a small part of something much larger, that the silence we fear is not emptiness, but distance beyond perception, that the universe does not need to be loud or violent to be overwhelming. Sometimes it is the quiet that defines it. So as you move forward, deeper into that darkness, past the last influence of the Sunday, beyond the reach of anything familiar, one truth becomes impossible to ignore. You are not at the edge of space. You are at the beginning of it.